all those moments will be lost in time.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about microcheating. Now, full disclosure, well actually before full disclosure, I have merch now. Some of it looks like this. There's a link in my description if you're interested. Anyways, full disclosure, this is my second take filming this, and I'm going to explain why. So this is a Cosmopolitan article, and I think anyone who has seen at least one Cosmopolitan video of mine knows that I generally despise their shit. I think that what they put out is garbage.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
And just an insult to journalism, and I don't mean to sound like I would be the best journalist or anything, but the stuff they're cranking out is just pure bullshit, you know? So my first instinct when I deal with anything of Cosmopolitan is to say no. No, 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 whatever it is, no. However, instead of doing that, I thought we might take a more intellectual, I'm just kidding, a more calm approach and try to see what this article is saying badly. I mean, what this article is trying to say, but is doing a very bad job of doing, as a typical Cosmopolitan article would do. So the article is called, "Here's How to Know If You're Microcheating. Your actions may not be premeditated, but they could signal problem in your relationship." I'm gonna look up the definition of microcheating because they're gonna give us one, but let's just look it up. So according to the Huffington Post, microcheating is when you are walking on that thin line between am I cheating or am I not cheating? And when you have that question in your head, I guess that's really what it is. I don't really think we can have a concrete definition aside from the fact that you're really on the fence of like, you could be flopping into cheating land real fast. This article says, microcheating happens when you create small opportunities for affectionate behaviors that fall outside of your relationship. You may be doing it when your partner isn't around or even in front of them, and with or without their knowledge. But given that such a habit can build up to something more, it can spell trouble. Hear how to spot such borderline straying and turn it into a constructive method for strengthening rather than chipping away at your bond. Now, one thing that I don't like that this article is doing is that they're immediately kind of framing it as, hey, you know, like, you might be micro-cheating or you might not, but anyways, here are some ways that you can strengthen your bond instead of fucking up your relationship entirely. So the assumption is that you're already micro-cheating, or else why would they say, like, here are ways to use those inappropriate behaviors of yours to make your relationship better than it was before? Now, let me just say, in my serious relationships, and it should actually be relationship because I've only had one, and that is my marriage and, you know, being boyfriend and girlfriend before my marriage. I've always been very traditional, and that's kind of funny because I used to be a commitment phobe, but I also wanted to be traditional. Let's just not open the door into what's going on up in here with me because that's, I don't think anyone wants to hear about that. But I've always been very traditional in the sense that I believed and wanted a monogamous relationship where flirting with someone else is inappropriate, when hiding things from each other is inappropriate, where there's trust enough that we don't go through each other's phones. Like, I've never had that moment with my relationship, and I never want to be in the type of relationship where I need to look through someone's phone. I guess it could be considered traditional in the sense that we go very much by the book in terms of a monogamous relationship. The thing here is, when we talk about micro-cheating, it means that there has to be a standard of what is cheating. So obviously, for most relationships, whether you're traditional or not, if you're in a monogamous relationship, of course, having sex with someone else is cheating, right? That's kind of a black and white one. However, for a lot of people, emotional cheating doesn't count. For me, it counts, but whatever. So, an interesting thing that this article is bringing up is not the question of whether you're cheating, but the question of what even is, let's say, the norm of cheating, right? Because every time I make a video about relationships and cheating or whatever, I always have people in the comments saying, you know, like, if you're in an open relationship, the situation could be different. Or if you're polyamorous, the situation could be different. But the fact that Cosmopolitan here is going out of their way to say, hey, here are a set of things to tell whether you're cheating, means that they are basing it on the norm average relationship. And I think that's interesting to consider, because as times progress, people are turning more and more against the traditional, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. Obviously, that comes down to personal opinion. Based on these warning signs, Cosmopolitan really is positioning itself and saying, hey, this is inappropriate behavior in a traditional monogamous relationship, which is interesting when you consider that they had an article about like why cheating isn't so bad, which I can link below. I made a video about that. They also had an article kind of being okay with incest. So it's interesting that now at this point, they're more of the moral kind of ethics police, whatever you want to call it. Some clues you're paddling in the shallows of danger include dressing differently when you know you're going to be seeing a certain person, withholding information from your SO about who you're hanging with during after-work drinks, or lying by omission. It could also be the fact that you're always liking and commenting on one guy's Instagram pics, and that guy isn't Zac Efron, or that you make your relationship seem less serious than it is in order to keep talking to a hot stranger. It's just harmless fun, you say, and yeah, we agree to an extent. It's just harmless fun, and yeah, they agree to an extent. I don't agree with any of that. To me, none of that seems like harmless fun. Like, okay, so lying to your significant other about who you're hanging out with, how is that lighthearted and haha, not a big deal, totally cool? Or lying by omission, or commenting on some person's Instagram pictures and in a way that suggests that you are interested, or in a way that you wouldn't want your partner to see, or talking in such a way that degrades your relationship and makes the other person think like you're still available. Like, none of these things to me seem like harmless and fun. Like, that makes me nauseated to think about. Both, you know, like whether he did it or I did it, that is nauseating behavior, and that is disrespect of a relationship. So as much as Cosmopolitan wants to be a bit of the moral police of like, hey, you know, like, this is inappropriate, all the shit that they think is okay and harmless fun is already inappropriate in my book. And I think in most people's book, they would be disgusted if their significant other went around belittling the relationship, saying it's not serious so they can have like the side hoes or side dudes, whatever the fuck. I don't know, this article is confusing because it is sending these kind of mixed signals, and it's just interesting because it's like you're trying to say that certain behavior is inappropriate, but at the same time, the behavior that you're saying is kind of fun and harmless is already wrong by most people's perspective. And you guys can tell me in the comments if I'm just crazy and uptight and weird, but I don't know, this all seems like a very weird article to me just because it is so all over the place. And then it says, but micro-cheating shows that you're thinking about the attention of someone who isn't your partner, and that can be a red flag for your romance. Just consider the motivation behind that glossy lip you're rocking to work, out of the norm because the smoke show accountant is in today. How would your partner feel if they knew the real reason behind your extra effort, or if your mate found out that you were deleting texts from someone else out of fear that they might read them?
In any cheating movie, the person getting cheated on is the hero. You're Ali Larder, I'm Beyonce.
I am Beyonce always.
Not this time.
Yes, I am.
Here, it seems like Cosmopolitan has drawn the line and said, you know, like, to an extent, if you're just flirting, if you're just lying by omission, if you're doing these things, you know, it can be lighthearted, right? It can be totally harmless, right? Because lying is always totally harmless. But there's a line where it turns into micro-cheating. And that line here is very unclear because they say every relationship has its own threshold or line as to what constitutes cheating, and that's true. But the thing is, like, they already based what the threshold was in the initial argument, you know? Like, if you're saying certain behavior is inappropriate, you have a basis of what is appropriate and not, which is why I'm confused at this article in the first place. But I think that the bigger issue of this article is that the basis of what they consider appropriate and inappropriate, to me, is off. And it shows a huge amount of disrespect. Because like I said, what they considered harmless fun or whatever, to me, that's a disrespect of a relationship. And I think that really is a problem that we have today. And I'm not saying, you know, like, oh, millennials, or I'm blaming anyone. I'm not blaming anyone as much as, like, because technology has advanced to the way it has, it's just very easy to find people all the time through apps, social media, whatever. At pretty much any hour of the day, if you wanted to hook up with someone and, you know, you're not a fucking serial killer, it's probably really easy. Well, actually, it's probably easier if you're a serial killer, because you'd probably know how to get the people to meet up. Anyways, it's easy to meet up with people, right? So I think that in a time when it is easy to meet up with people, our values or how seriously we take relationships can be undermined, because it's just like, oh, it's just like a small flirtation, oh, it's just a text, oh, it's just a comment. And the reality is that all these things, I think, are centered on respect or lack thereof. Because when it comes down to it, you know, some people say commenting on somebody else's picture isn't a big deal. And yeah, most of the time it isn't a big deal. At the same time, you have to see what the person is commenting. You need to see what the underlying messages are. You need to read between the lines, because I do think that micro-cheating exists in the sense that people aren't on the same page anymore about what cheating is, because there are just, I guess, new ways to cheat. Because, you know, like, once upon a time when people just had a house phone and, you know, telegrams in the mail, yeah, sure, I guess you could send a sext over telegram, but it was a lot more black and white. At the point that we are now, I think that the real bottom line this article is making is that everything is quite gray and quite difficult to determine as definitely cheating or definitely not. Obviously, each relationship has their own definition. But yeah, this article weirded me out just because of these kind of mixed signals, ironically, that it's sending. And I'm gonna link it, but it's very short and it seems to not really explain anything other to say that there's a thin line between appropriate and inappropriate behavior. And I agree with that, but I think that was obvious, and I don't think that really needed an article to be written about it, because I think most of us who are socialized and have a minimum of social awareness and social tact will realize that there is a thin line between appropriate and inappropriate. But I digress. I digress. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of am at a loss with this article. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this article. Let me know about what you think about relationships, about traditional ones versus, I guess, more modern type situations. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, as always, and let's get right into the fan art.